Hey everyone, welcome to today's Hoboken Free Church Devotional. Happy Wednesday and thanks for joining us. So I hope all is well as we continue into the end of September and now into the first few days of fall officially. So that's pretty exciting. Today we're going to be reading from James's letter to the church, specifically going through chapter 1, verses 19 through 27. Really here referring to how we're to be doers of the word and not just merely hearers of the word. So I'll read through that here in a second and then offer some thoughts for the passage for today. So here we go. James 1:19 through 27. Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Therefore, put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away, and at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God, the Father, is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. So there's a few different sections to this passage here, but James is really trying to get across the point that as believers, we need to be able to control our tongues, to control our actions, to prove ourselves as doers of God's word, and not merely just hearers or those who hear things but don't follow through on the actions. So in the first verses, in 19 and 20, James says to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger, since anger doesn't achieve the righteousness of God. And it can certainly be very easy to get frustrated or to become angry more quickly in a tense time like we're living in right now. But James is encouraging us to hold off in this anger or in this tension. And as he says in verse 20, the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. And so something that's good to think about is that if we're always angered, if we're always talking and not controlling our tongue, we're unable to hear what God is trying to tell us or what others are trying to tell us to help us out. So being able to realize we need to control our tongue and know when to speak and know when to listen is very important. Similarly then in verses 21 and 22, James then says, therefore put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word which is able to save your souls. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. So again, that's pretty clear that hearing the word only is not going to be sufficient to save us. Once we've begun to listen to God, to listen to Him, and to put away these loud and rampant things, we must change our behavior. And if God's word is not having a material impact on how we're living our lives, then we're deceiving ourselves and we don't have a real faith in Him because it's not being evidenced through our actions. And so then in verses 23 through 25, he says again, if anyone is a hearer of the word but not a doer, it's like someone that looks in a mirror but then forgets their appearance once they go away. And so the idea is that anyone who's looked intently at this perfect law of liberty and perseveres in it as an effective doer, not a hearer of the word, such a person will be blessed in what they do. And I think the concept of a mirror is really great because it's showing us that God is reflecting back to us all of our attributes through His word. And those are the good attributes and the bad attributes that we may have. He's able to show us where we're doing things well in our lives and also the areas that need some further work. And so as we look into this mirror and reflect back, we're able to start to see those flaws in those areas we need to work on. So we need to remember those areas by staying in touch with God frequently, using His word as our mirror. But again, if we're looking in this mirror and then looking away and forgetting what we look like or forgetting what our traits are, we can't remember them, then we're not doing what the word is saying. We're not understanding what we've seen, and we're not able to remember that. And so again here, our actions are speaking louder than our words. And this is how we can identify ourselves really as believers. Now, the last two verses then have a fairly clear warning in verses 26 and 27 that those who think themselves religious, if they do not bridle their tongues, then their religion is worthless. And rather the idea is that religion should be to visit those who are in distress and keep oneself unstained by the world. And this is a way to see and understand the truth of religion or of Christianity is that we need to be sure taking care of those who truly need our help and our support. For God, it's far more important that we have the right actions and the right attitude in our hearts rather than simply just saying the right things but then not following through with that. And so I think if I had to really summarize this passage, it really gets back to that idea is that God cares more about how we serve Him through our actions and serving others through our actions than that we have just simply heard what he has to say, that we've simply have read the Bible. We have to have some action on that part as well, as opposed to just hearing the word. And that really will then improve our interactions with others. It improves our words, our speech to others, as well as our hearts going forward. So I hope this has been a nice little break from your day with this devotional. And thanks so much for listening. God bless.